we get our first look at Drake Maye and the Patriots rookies, plus Eliot Wolf is named general manager. Sort of. We'll break it down here on PatsCast.
We breaking down the plays, analyzing every block. PatsCast got the info, no need to hit the flock. This ain't no ordinary show.
Welcome to PatsCast. I'm Brad Whitaker. Patriots rookie minicamp has begun. We get our first look at Drake Maye in a Patriots uniform. And overall, he looks pretty good. Looks like a real leader out there. Has a real zip on the football, which we certainly did not have with Mac Jones. Got some work to do, though, but he's certainly putting in the work. Wearing the long sleeves early May in New England. Probably the coldest weather he's ever played in. So that's going to be probably the biggest adjustment. It'll be interesting to see what he looks like in December in the snow. But overall, Drake Maye's presence is really being felt as he begins his journey as a member of the New England Patriots. He's really putting in the time. He's staying long hours, staying late into the night at the facility, really putting in the effort to learn the playbook, learn the offense. And he's mainly working with Alex Van Pelt, the new offensive coordinator, who's implementing a new West Coast style offense, which we really haven't seen in New England at all. That's kind of the modern NFL offense. Matt Patricia tried to implement it. It didn't work, but Alex Van Pelt has a ton of experience doing it. And that's really what Maye is focusing on, in addition to cleaning up his mechanics, particularly his footwork. And if you've seen the clips on X, you can see that Drake Maye looks a little different throwing the football than when you watch his college highlights. And it's not just because he's practicing these wide zone schemes or he's snapping the ball under center. It's more that he is trying to clean up his footwork a little bit. And if you watch the clips, he looks a little flat, right? Like he's not standing on the balls of his feet. But overall, his footwork, it doesn't look like he's about to trip over himself like when you watched him play in college. So his ability to win the starting job and be the #1 quarterback, excuse me, on that depth chart and surpass Jacoby Brissett is really going to come down to how quickly he can clean that up. Because with better footwork comes better mechanics, better timing, better throwing, not just on the deep ball, which we all know Drake Maye can do, but just in terms of accuracy on those dink and dunk passes, those short throws up the middle, which are going to be very important in a West Coast style offense, which really depends on the short pass as kind of an extension of the running game. And that's really what Drake Maye is focusing on so far. And we saw Bill Belichick raise all of the issues about Drake Maye when he was drafted by the Patriots on the Pat McAfee show during the NFL draft. Really did talk about his footwork. And even though it looks a little flat right now and kind of moving in slow motion a little bit, I'd say in the coming weeks, at least the effort it looks like he's putting in, he may be able to clean it up pretty quickly. And that's something we've heard from a lot of NFL coaches, from a lot of NFL scouts. We heard it from Kevin O'Connell, who, head coach in the Minnesota Vikings, was certainly interested in trading up and drafting Drake Maye. He says footwork is one of the easiest things to clean up, and he thinks he could do it. He kind of implied it in a single offseason with Drake Maye. And if he can do that, maybe that would be enough for him to win the starting job in year one, but only time will tell. But Maye has really been praised so far for his leadership skills, especially by his fellow rookies and the coaching staff. He really is encouraging his teammates, engaging in extra film study, like I said, staying late into the night at the facility, putting in a ton of work. And we've also seen him working a lot with some of the early draft picks, like Jalen Polk, the receiver out of Washington, Javon Baker, the receiver out of Central Florida, probably a future Boundary X, Caden Wallace, probably the new left tackle, even though he was at right tackle at Penn State, and then Layden Robinson was the other guard that they drafted in the early rounds. But really starting to see the chemistry build among the rookies that are there. Jalen Polk, Javon Baker, kind of best friends already. They've been working out together even before rookie minicamp started. The chemistry on the field with Drake Maye has been really evident, and it's been reinforced by their prior training together. But we've also seen similarities with Caden Wallace and Layden Robinson, because both offensive linemen are quickly bonding, demonstrating strong communication on the field, and they're staying late into the night and working on their new jobs on the offensive line, working on the playbook, trying to understand it. Good to see these rookies out there early, and it's good to see the media actually get access so we can watch these throws as they come out in real time. But as of right now, the offensive line configuration is they are putting Caden Wallace at left tackle. They're really trying to make it so he can start there. Now, is he going to start week 1? We'll see. He's going to have to leapfrog guys like Chuck Okorafor, who they brought in the offseason, and Calvin Anderson, who missed most of last season, had malaria and another injury. Really kind of scary story, but he seems to be good now. But Caden Wallace seems to be the left tackle of the future, and he's really putting in the work to try to do that. We've also seen a lot from Jaheim Bell, the versatile tight end the Patriots drafted later in the late rounds of the draft. Really has a lot of versatility. I've heard a lot of comparisons between him and Rob Gronkowski. Now, is he going to be Gronk? I don't think so. But in terms of a tight end who can block, who can catch, who can get yards after the catch, Jaheim Bell looks to be that guy. And he's been catching a lot of passes. Probably the best throw we saw from Drake Maye, at least from the highlights these last couple days, was Maye throwing to Jaheim Bell, kind of on the outside. It's nice to have a QB who can throw outside the numbers more than about 5 yards, which certainly Drake Maye can do. Matthew Slater is at minicamp as well, and he's an advisor to head coach Jerod Mayo. Good to see him out there. Javon Baker, we all know he's maybe the most confident wide receiver we've ever seen in New England, at least for a guy that's never played a game in the NFL, has expressed that his play is good enough to get people to stand up out of wheelchairs. So, Jerod Mayo talked about that a little bit, saying he needs to back up his words with his actions on the field. But if you watch the clips, Javon Baker is a hell of a route runner. He really is, and he's got good hands. He can go up and catch the ball. I think he probably has more of a learning curve if he's going to earn a starting job right away than, say, Jalen Polk, who I think is a little bit more of a polished receiver. Probably doesn't have as high of a ceiling, but I think Jalen Polk can be a Jacoby Myers type receiver on day one. But at the end of the day, Javon Baker has the real star potential to be that boundary X wide receiver. He's going to work a lot with Kendrick Bourne, I would assume, once we actually get into training camp in the preseason. Some defensive observations. We saw the lone defensive draft pick, Marcellus Dial, out there at cornerback, and he is so athletic. I mean, if you watch his ability, his leaping ability, and he's very sticky in coverage. Now, we haven't seen a lot. They're just kind of going through the motions in 7-on-7. Like, we're not going to get a lot out of rookie minicamp, but I'll tell you, right away, Marcellus Dial looks to be the type of cornerback that might be able to line up opposite Christian Gonzalez right away. Like, he looks really good. I still hope the Patriots will look into adding a veteran defensive back, a veteran cornerback who can start right away opposite Christian Gonzalez, no questions asked. And I think Stephon Gilmore, who is still on the market, played with the Patriots, won a Super Bowl, obviously. He would be the ideal pick, but I don't know. Marcellus Dial, you have him for cheap on a rookie contract. He looks pretty good out there as well. I did mention Jaheim Bell. He's going to be able to contribute on special teams. We don't know how the new kicking rule is going to look, but with a guy of his size who can block, who can catch, Jaheim Bell is certainly going to have a role right away on the special teams. We've also seen a lot of very structured practice drills, especially coming from new wide receivers coach Tyler Hughes. It was definitely a very structured rookie minicamp. A lot of similarities to old in terms of the structure, but they were running drills that we're not used to seeing in New England. That said, similar things, end of practice, they run up the hill, kind of like they did under Bill Belichick. That's still happening, but a little bit different because you have the quarterbacks practicing these wide zone handoffs and things like that, and certainly that's going to be a learning curve for Drake Maye and Joe Milton. But look, Maye's development, his trajectory is going to be monitored very closely, and it's going to have potential implications on the starting lineup heading into the season. And like I said, his footwork looks a little flat, but it looks a lot better at the same time. And if he can learn to stand on the balls of his feet, release the football a little bit quickly, work on those mechanics, that's really going to be the difference maker between whether he's ready to start or not. Obviously, he's got a lot to learn in terms of the playbook, going through the progression, the timing of that type of an offense, but really it comes down to the mechanics. And if Drake Maye, working with Alex Van Pelt, can figure that out pretty quickly, which a lot of coaches think he can, then maybe he can start. So, going to be interesting, but it's fun to watch him out there. Doesn't look anything like Mac Jones, despite wearing the number 10. Has a lot of size. A lot of arm strength, a good frame, a good build, strong legs. He's a guy who's going to bring something to New England that I don't think we've really ever seen. He's going to bring the arm strength of a Drew Bledsoe, but he's also going to bring similar athleticism to a Cam Newton. And if he can work on his mechanics and become NFL ready that way, it's going to be exciting seeing him behind center for years to come. So you're not going to get a lot of information out of rookie minicamp. We'll get a lot more as training camp comes around, but it's good to see him throwing to Jalen Polk, Javon Baker, who really look like NFL caliber receivers who can probably contribute, particularly Polk, right away. So really exciting stuff. Good to see the offensive line. Good to see them putting Caden Wallace at left tackle right away. We'll see how it plays out. We'll be here at PatsCast to cover it. But in other news, Elliot Wolf has officially been named the de facto GM. He's not general manager because we know the Crafts don't want to hand out the title of general manager, but he was officially named the executive vice president of player personnel, becoming the top non-ownership figure in the Patriots organization. Basically the role that he's been playing since before the draft. Wolf's role encompasses directing the personnel department, managing the salary cap, and ultimately overseeing the 53-man roster. So he gets a little bit more of a leadership role in terms of those decisions than even head coach Drake Maye, although you know the two will work hand in hand, collaborating that way. And, I feel a little bit bad for some of the Rooney Rule candidates who kind of came in just to check the box. Obviously, they were turned down by Trey Brown and some of these other candidates who I think would have been really great general manager candidates had the Patriots done the interviews back in January. But ultimately, they let Eliot Wolf make the decisions, and then they went through the formality of doing the interviews, satisfying the needs of the Rooney Rule, and Eliot Wolf has ultimately earned that role. We'll see, depending on the success of the team going forward. 2 to 3 seasons down the road, are they looking better? Are they a playoff team? Are they contending for a Super Bowl again now that we're on year 3 or year 4 with Drake Maye? Those outcomes will ultimately weigh into the decision of whether to promote Wolf to an official general manager role. We'll see how that works. They're going to have to go through interviews with the Rooney Rule again if they do that. But I think it will take some time for the Patriots to ultimately make that decision. Unless, of course, they do what they did with Drake Maye and write a clause in his contract saying, hey, he can be promoted at any time and avoid that. I wouldn't be shocked if the Crafts did that. But here we are. We're in rookie minicamp. Now things are getting real. They're getting serious. We have Drake Maye, the receivers, the offensive line. Eliot Wolf is playing the general manager role. Drake Maye is leading practices for the very first time. We're getting a lot more media access than we've ever had before. The rookies actually have their numbers on their jerseys. Drake Maye's number 10. Javon Baker's number 6. Jalen Polk is number 1, who he stole from Javon Baker, who is number 1 in college. I'm sure he wasn't happy about that, but ultimately, it's good to see them all out there. Hopefully, we'll get a lot more clips of Drake Maye throwing the football in the coming days, in the coming weeks, and see how that footwork is ultimately developing, because like I said, that's going to make or break whether he wins the starting job, because you clean up the footwork, everything else starts to align. We'll be here at PatsCast to cover it the rest of the way. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and check the notification bell. Or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, subscribe there as well. We'll be back next week with more Patriots coverage.
Welcome to the PatsCast, where it's all about the game. Rookie minicamp got us buzzing, we ain't for no fame. Drake Maye spitting fire, he's the quarterback to stalk. Jalen Polk, Javon Baker making catches that can shock. We breaking down the plays, analyzing every block. PatsCast got the info, no need to hit the flock. This ain't no ordinary show, we dive deep in the stats. Patriots future looking bright, got the rookies making impacts. Drake Maye slinging dimes like Brady in his prime. Jalen Polk, you can spin the defense, can't keep it line. Javon Baker in his zone, making cornerbacks toast. When you think you got an answer, Patriots always bring the most. PatsCast in the house, bringing you the loose. Rookie minicamp got us hyped, got enough loot. Breaking it down with style